Welcome everybody. Education USA Ukraine is happy to see our visitors today and our guest speaker from Syracuse University. Today we will talk about IT programs in the United States, a very important topic, and we're happy to welcome Susan Corrieri from the Syracuse University, and she will share this important information. And have your questions ready. Sue, now the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks very much, Natalia. So I want to make sure there. Okay. Thanks very much. I'm thrilled to reach out to Ukraine and hopefully some people from Russia and maybe some other countries as well on this presentation. We're extremely interested in your region and really interested in discussing how IT differs in the United States and in other areas of the world. To make sure that I add the most value to our conversation today, would you kindly type in the chat box a little bit about the program that you're interested in? I don't know if I have mainly an undergraduate or postgraduate population. So if you could just simply say what country you're from and if you're interested in undergraduate or postgraduate, I'd appreciate it. Whoops, we have to go back to the beginning. Okay, so today's agenda, I'm going to talk about the foundation of an information degree. One of the things that we're doing here in the United States and now throughout the world is a movement of something called the iSchool, which is an information school, which I want to present. And then I'm going to give some examples of programs at Syracuse University so that you can have some idea about what we offer, and time for questions and answers. So would love to keep this informal. I'll be kind of glancing at the chat box, and Natalia, please feel free to interrupt me if there's a good question there, or I can take the questions at the end, so whatever flow works better. But I'd love to make sure that this is a conversation and not just me talking. So let's see, we have undergraduate, postgraduate, undergraduate. So a little bit of a mixture and at this point, so nice different countries, Belarus and Ukraine and Russia, so that's great. So I'll try to talk a little bit globally and address both undergraduate and graduate. It doesn't really differ that much anyways. Just to give you a little bit about myself and my background, I'm with Syracuse University. I've been with Syracuse University since 1997, so 18 years now. And I am responsible for the enrollment of one of the colleges here at Syracuse, and that would be the Information School. We're made up of 13 schools and colleges representing students from 124 different countries. A little over 20,000 international students, students in total, and 4,000 of those are international. So international students find Syracuse very welcoming. We are set up to provide excellent services to them. And, excuse me, we are located in the central New York region. It's about 4.5-hour drive or a 1-hour flight from New York City. So we do not look like New York City at all. We're a medium-sized town. When you're looking at the United States, you should always keep in mind that when you go to a large city, that the cost of living is much more expensive. In Syracuse, it's very affordable. So at the end, I'll show you some pictures, but I just kind of wanted to give you some idea of where I am, and I'm talking all the way from Syracuse, New York. Okay, so what is the importance of an information degree? So I often say, information management, or the need for information management, is ubiquitous. It's in every single sector and in every single industry. Whether you're working for a government or a private corporation or a nonprofit, the need is there. Whether you're working in a hospital or working for a bank, the need is there. So information professionals, there's a vast need for them, in the region. It's growing faster than other industries. Our graduates from our program, I know at the undergraduate level, are actually, the placement rates are always above 90% for employment. And currently, the graduates of our undergraduate population, we do a salary survey every year, and those graduates make more than any other graduates at Syracuse University. So they're making over $60,000 on average in the starting degree, and it's simply a supply and demand thing. So if you're interested in technology, now is a wonderful time to get involved. And there's many different ways in which you can study technology. And that's what I'm going to talk to today, to make sure that you understand that it's not just about computer science or about managing information systems, but there's other ways in which you can study the field. So here's just a slide to indicate the growth in the jobs related to information science and information technology. This chart is taken from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's probably the most reliable information we have for predictive studies within the United States. So this is projecting out to 2022, the growth, and you can see that all of those industries are growing. They're all related to the information science area, and there's considerable growth in many of them, especially security and areas of big data analytics. Okay. And as I said, information is the foundation for everything, for every type of industry. It's there, it's the content, it's what you're working with, whether it's a medical chart in a hospital, whether it is census data to understand the needs of an organization. If anybody has seen Moneyball, it's what athletics. It's a movie about recruitment and using data, making data-driven decisions to get the best players at the best dollar amount. So it is ubiquitous. So one of the nice things about the information field is it fuses passions of other areas with information skills. So I know we have many students that love athletics. So they may be athletes, or they may just have that personal interest. They take an information studies degree at our school, and they go into web development for athletics. So we have several people working in MLB.com or some of the other, which would be Major League Baseball in the United States. We have some working in football, and we actually have a company right in the information school at Syracuse that develops the websites for college athletics. It's called Sidearm Sports. So if you follow any sports in America from college, you'll see that they probably are doing the web development here at Syracuse University. The other thing is medicine. So the study of epidemiology. When we look at new diseases and trends, it's the data that drives the answers of how we're going to treat those diseases, how we're going to control them, and it gets very, very complex. So when you look at, a breakout of a virus or something, they have to look at the transportation systems for that city. They have to look at the public works to make sure things are functioning properly so diseases are not spreading. So this complex task of taking information from different sources and using that information to solve big problems of organizations and individuals is exactly what we teach in an information school. So it's not just about the technology, but it's also about the use of that technology. So both theoretical and applied. Okay. So we kind of talked about this already, but the information degree is the key to understanding the skills that students need to succeed in today's information age. So years ago, it was all about binary and coding and everything. And now the challenge is really understanding technology and leveraging that technology. So if we look historically, computer science was the first discipline related to information science. So most of the degrees are still currently called computer and information science. And these are the coders, the developers of new technology, understanding algorithms, and really the science and mathematics and analytics of the field. And that has lived in computer science. With the incredible developments of computer science came the new discipline, which is information science, which is how to apply that technology to the appropriate setting. So it's not enough just to know the technology is there, but it's also having to understand what an organization needs. So the information professional is kind of the liaison between the technical and the business entity. They become experts in interviewing, they become experts in presenting, all of these things, the soft skills combined with the technical knowledge. Traditionally, the technical skills were in things like a Bachelor's of Science or a Master's of Science in Computer Science or Computer and Information Science. And as I said, the information professional kind of sits in the middle between the business world. So it is it's an amalgamation of both technical courses as well as business courses. And you can see in the bottom of that slide, I have STEM written, and that's really important for international students because STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. If you are coming to the United States and you are studying in a STEM discipline, then there are special considerations for OPT post-graduation. OPT is optional practical training. It's the time that you can spend on your student visa to study, to actually work in the United States and get some practical experience. So for STEM disciplines, the current is 29 months, and for non-STEM, it's 12 months. So if you're looking at technical schools, if you're in an information school or computer science, you fall under STEM. If you're in a business school, you typically would not. So you have to both graduate from a STEM field as well as work in a STEM-related position. And that's really attractive to people who want to work in America a little while to get experience before returning to their home country. So I encourage you to consider that if that's something that you'd like to do. I'm happy to, it's kind of complex. And I should also add that it is currently going back to Congress to be voted on. I had heard that they should make a decision in February. So we expect that 29 months to be adjusted. Some people say it's going to be lowered. More people say it's going to be longer. So I'm not exactly sure. So it's, again, controlled by the government. It's not a university policy. But you should be aware of that if you're traveling to the United States and studying in the STEM field. Okay, so what is an iSchool? We call ourselves an iSchool at Syracuse University, and basically what that states is that we're dedicated to advancing modern information field. Years ago, when I was in college and computers were still kind of new and they took up a whole room, you couldn't hold one in your palm at that point, the field of computer science was not yet defined. It usually was found in a math department because of the quantitative aspects of the field. Now everyone knows what computer science is, and this is kind of where we are with the information field, defining it as a separate academic discipline. So when you say that you have a degree in information, people understand exactly the skill sets associated with that. It's always the relationship between information, people, and technology, but there is a continuum between business and technology and communications that different students or different programs will lean towards one or the other. Many of them evolve from computer science or library science programs or communication programs. So they've started out in a university in a different school, whether it be the communication school or the library school or the computer science, and kind of evolved to be this multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary. When we look at the faculty of an iSchool, you can see that their background varies tremendously. Some of them will have degrees in economics, so they understand the return on investment of technology. Others will have psychology because they're very involved in understanding user interfaces and how to build things for users to use. Computer science, library and information science, who are the experts in organization of data. So by bringing these faculty together, which have many different expertise, we're able to address the information problems of today's society, which, as you all know, are just getting more and more and more complex. So again, the key thing to an iSchool is that it's interdisciplinary. There's a management, there's a technology, and there's a communication, but the focus is always on the people. So the focus of computer science programs can often be on the technology. How can we advance technology? So the goal is to increase bandwidth or increase speed or something. But the goal of an iSchool program is to assess needs and meet those needs, okay? So even though a computer science graduate and an information studies graduate may be competing for the same job, the skill sets are just a little bit different, what they bring to the table. Okay, so I like this slide because there's a lot of buzzwords in it that often students, when I'm talking to them, they say, oh, I didn't know that's what you did in iSchool. So we do many things. By the very nature, the programs are innovative because they're dealing with technology, which is forever evolving. Right now, I think, you know, security, cybersecurity, anything with that is still a very hot issue, and we still have a large need in the market for that skill set. But many, many students are interested in big data, data analytics, data architecture, visualization. All of these things are taught at iSchools. They're also taught in computer and information science, but again, with a little bit different of a flavor. Okay, so you can see web design, data mining, net neutrality. That's really interesting because a large part of what we do in the information field has to do with setting policy and standardizing things so that information can be shared across platforms as well as across organizations, communities, countries. I know whenever I travel, I always have to bring my whole adapter kit because I'm never exactly sure how to plug my curling iron into different outlets when I travel around the country. If I had to bring like a different laptop to different countries because there wasn't standardization or protocols so that information, you know, can be shared across, then that would be, you know, horrific. We'd really be limiting the global accessibility of our information. So luckily, you know, the inventors of all of these devices thought about policy, thought about standardization, making sure that things can be accessed because it's so critically important. But as you know, different devices work differently everywhere. So those policies have always got to be discussed and continually improved and sometimes lobbied. I mean, they become very much governmental issues. Okay, so here's examples of, we did a little research and we're trying to grab different types of programs that we saw. And there are many, many, many different names for programs, so it can be very, very confusing. So here's some top ones that we found. You know, for bachelor's degrees, you often see information technology or information systems or informatics. Also, obviously, computer and information systems, but that's more technical and not really an iSchool. That's much more of an engineering program. And at the master's level as well. Computer science is sometimes related to an iSchool and sometimes related to an engineering school. And then we have information systems, information science, and library and information science. But as you can see, we found 46 different majors at the undergraduate level and 56 at the master's level. And again, there's even more at the doctoral level. So lots of different programs. So it's understanding that it's a little confusing. So the advice that I always give to students is if you're trying to figure out what program is better for you, go to the course level, go to the course description, and then you'll really understand. When we opened our programs, we use in information and studies at Syracuse, a lot of people that wanted to be software engineers would apply to our program, and they would say, I want to study computer science, but I want the soft skills too to work with the clients. But that's not what we are. We are not about software engineering. That is computer science. They are the ones to do a lot of the coding and building of the new technologies and things and new software. So it can be very difficult to kind of differentiate it, but it can also be exciting to find something. One of the favorite parts of my jobs is when I talk to students, and many of them think, well, I'm going to go get an engineering degree, but then I'm going to go get an MBA because I really want both the technical knowledge and the business knowledge. And when I present our program, I never knew I could do both at the same time. And you can, whether it's in the bachelor's or the master's program. How are we doing? Does anybody have any questions yet? If you do, you can just type them in. Okay. So Syracuse University was one of the founding iSchool members. There were 3 in the Northeast. And this was back in 2005. Our deans got together and decided that if we started better defining what an information school was, then we'd be doing a great service to not only the information field, but to our students and also to our research. So it was important that people studying in the information field got together to discuss their study so that they can learn from each other and continue to grow on that research. So in 2005, the iSchool group was formed. And if you want to learn more about it, you can visit iSchools, it's iSchools plural.org, okay? Now there's over 60 iSchools across the country, across the globe rather. We just got our first one in Africa last year, so we're really happy about that. So we have a consortium of universities that are defining the information field together concurrently. The doctoral students and the faculty from these universities get together for a conference every single year. They share research, they present papers, and it's really been wonderful to add, and that kind of really extends the research much faster in a discipline when you have the information sharing going on, like it's now currently going on in the information through the iSchools consortium. And everything that they do starts with an I. So they have an I conference, they have an I caucus through the iSchool consortium. Okay, so that's what I really wanted to talk about in the general sense of what is going on. So there's the computer science, the information science in the iSchools, and then there's the business MIS program. So 3 different areas in which information or IT lives in universities. So now I'm going to enter the information school at Syracuse University and give you some examples. Okay, so this is actually a nice slide for anybody interested in undergraduate. All of these programs, computer science, computer engineering, systems and information science, and information management and technology, are different Bachelor's of Science programs we have at Syracuse University. The top 2, computer science and computer engineering, are examples of programs that would always fall under an engineering school. So they're currently housed at the L.C. Smith Engineering and Computer Science School. Systems and information science has both the elements of programming and management. That is actually a shared program here at Syracuse between the engineering school and the iSchool. And then information management and technology is housed within the iSchool. So it's often, as I had said, if you want to understand things, look at the courses, but you can also look at the jobs that people get. So if you'd like to be a software engineer or a software architect, studying in the engineering school is the place that you'd like to be. If you'd like to be a data scientist, you can see that one right in the middle, and all of the programs lead to that, then you can be in any of the programs. The difference is that there's going to be a higher concentration of technology in the computer science and computer engineering programs, and a higher focus on user assessment and management of the data itself when you get into the systems and information management. Okay, so I have a question. Is there any collaboration of any form between different iSchools so that undergrad students can participate in such as internships or research projects? So I would say that there likely is. I can't give an exact example right now. I know that one thing we do at Syracuse is we have a lot of entrepreneurship, and we do attract students from other schools and other programs to work with our students to build new companies. So it's an out-of-class project that occurs. We have incubator space in which our Syracuse students and students from other places work together in the summer to get a business plan and get a business off and going. So I think that that would be one example. If you look at iSchools.org, you can see a whole listing of all the members of the iSchools if you're looking at different universities. And you can get an idea of the different, if you're more interested in the West Coast or something, or you have a university in mind or a location in mind in the United States, you can probably find an information school near that. I hope that answers your question, Dennis. If not, let me know. Okay. And again, as you can see, when you move down the continuum from the computer science to the information management, the jobs get much more hands-on and kind of soft skill focused. Okay, so this is an example of our largest master's program at Syracuse. It's the Masters of Science in Information Management. It's a very broad program, and within it, people will specialize in different things. So some people will specialize in data science, others in security, sometimes enterprise and global technology, so many different things. But one of the key elements is the application. So it is the application of technology for an organization, okay? This particular program is a 42 credit hour program, so it's a 2-year program, which is most common. I think you'll find that most programs are somewhere between 36 and 42 credit hours, and most programs have some sort of an internship, which is really critical because that kind of launches your career to have that opportunity to work within an organization. This is the job outlook for our information management degree. 95% of our students are getting placed, and that includes the international students. Because of the need for the skill set in America, the job placement is really fantastic. And you can see a listing of the top employers for our students currently. We always have, accounting firms and consulting firms hiring many of ours. Banks are very common, as are healthcare and government organizations. And here's another one of our degrees. This is the MS in Telecommunications and Network Management. We're looking at actually changing the name of that degree because those terms are a little bit old-fashioned. It's really about managing the transfer of information. So making sure that you're managing the network, which might be cloud or might be a wireless grid or something, to manage both the security, the transfer, and everything of the information so that it gets to the right place at the right time in a secure mode and in a structured mode. So that is like a subset. It's a separate degree, but it really is a separate niche in the information field. So these students also have, graduates of this, also have a great outlook in their career. And as you can see, everybody says, oh, you're going to work for Cisco or something, but that's a possibility. But you might work for a non-technical firm and work for an organization which needs somebody to manage their infrastructure as well. Okay, this is a much smaller program. I think the information management program is probably about 4 to 5 times the size of the telecommunications program, just because this is a niche market. And I had to just mention data science, which is probably the most growing field right now in the information field. So some people will call it business analytics, big data analysis. It really is about the whole life cycle of information. If it's being taught in an iSchool, if it's being taught in a business school, it's much more about the analytics of large data sets. So you can, again, look at different schools to get different flavors of this. So information professionals are the organizers of information. And so, building a database so that you can continually collect information and properly store it so that it can be used again in the future. And anytime you're analyzing a large data set, if you're going to communicate what you're actually looking at, you typically have to do it in some sort of data visualization, making a chart, making a graph or something. So that becomes part of this program as well. You usually only have a couple minutes when you go into the boardroom to explain your findings of what may be, thousands upon thousands of pages of data. So being able to communicate your findings is very important in a very succinct manner. And then being able to archive that information so that it can be reused and reused again in the future. It means that you might not be able to understand today, but if you've stored it and you've used appropriate metadata, you can constantly reuse the information, which is really critical. If you'd like to learn more about Syracuse University iSchool, you can visit this webpage. We constantly have information sessions going on, both virtual information sessions as well as information sessions in-house. But one of the things that we started to do this year so that we could not only connect with future students, but we could connect with professionals and people in the community, is we started to host webinars that are topic-oriented. So it's not about going to college or to graduate school or anything. It's just about the topic. So, you might be talking about non-government organizations or charity organizations and the information needs that they have. Or we could be talking about wireless grids. And we're using our faculty who are experts in the area to kind of share their knowledge with the information community. So anybody interested in this field, I welcome you to, kind of browse this. We constantly are putting new things up so that we can, stay connected. So I have plenty of time to answer any questions. Is there anything that, was I didn't explain well or that you'd like me to talk about a little bit more? You can just type it in that chat room. And if anybody, I am the Assistant Dean for Enrollment Management, so my role does include application review. So I'm also happy to answer questions about just applying to schools. If you'd like any advice about that, anything I can do. Oh, financial aid at iSchools. Okay, so I can't speak for financial aid across all iSchools, so I can only speak about Syracuse University. At the undergraduate level, we have a information an admissions office that does all of the admissions review and scholarship for the bachelor's programs. So that is managed there. They do offer some partial financial awards to international students. So if you're interested, I would strongly encourage you to apply. One of the things is we don't get a lot of applications from your area of the world. So we're really interested in attracting more students from Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and other countries in your region, just because we fully believe that Syracuse University is a better place when we have different countries and different ethnicities and cultures represented. So I would really strongly encourage that. At the graduate level, if we're talking about the information school, then I do manage the admissions and I do manage the scholarship. So if you are a top student when you're admitted, you will be offered a merit-based scholarship. So this is a partial scholarship that is applied towards your tuition. We also, because we're so interested in attracting students from your area, we also have a designated scholarship specifically for the Eurasia region of Education USA. So if you apply and you're from the Eurasia region, then please apply for a Eurasia scholarship, because we have the ability to get up to a 50% tuition scholarship through that. And we offer a few every year. So I strongly, strongly encourage that. But again, it's based on merit and sometimes based on the Eurasia scholarship. So I think everyone there would qualify for both of those. We do offer partial. We do not offer full scholarship unless you're coming to our doctoral programs. In the United States, most doctoral students, and I can speak clearly for Syracuse University, are fully funded. So you get the tuition plus a stipend to live on. That's because our doctoral students are really embedded in our faculty from the day they arrive on campus. They're doing teaching, they're doing research, they're really a critical part of the university. So they are fully funded and do not have to pay tuition, providing they stay on track. In our school, that means graduating in 4 years. You have funding for 4 years, and beyond that, if you're not graduating, then the funding may not be available. And the average cost of tuition for a master's degree, that is totally dependent on where you are attending. So there's both public and private universities. Most public universities have two different tuition rates. They have the in-states and the out-of-states. In the United States, the education system is sponsored by state taxing, which is why if you live within the state, you're already paying taxes for that state, so the rate is lower. And if you live outside of that state, then you pay a higher rate. Typically, international students pay out of state, but sometimes universities will really try to attract international students and will offer them in-state tuition. So that's a fabulous opportunity and a good deal. In a private institution, the funding is a little bit different. So Syracuse University is a private school, and it costs approximately for tuition, $58,000 over 2 years for the Master's of Science in Information Management. The cost is dependent on the length of the program and the number of credit hours. So the Telecommunications and Network program is a little bit less expensive. It's probably more like $48,000 because it is a 36 credit hour program as opposed to a 42 credit hour program. So there's a little bit of a savings there. So, and again, don't get scared with the numbers because there's always opportunity for scholarship. So what is the average? Any more questions? Okay, so that's a great question. Is it possible to be admitted for an MS in computer science if I have my BS in applied statistics, not in computer science? A BS in applied statistics is a better degree for an information school than for computer science. In an information school, We do not have any particular undergraduate degree requirement. At least I can speak for Syracuse University. We want to attract students with different skill sets. We want students that are computer science, that are business, but also students that might be interested in political science or in biology, because those are areas in which information is really needed. So in biology, if you understood all the terminology in biology and you came with an information degree, then you could go into bioinformatics or healthcare informatics. There are some bridging programs for students that want to get into an engineering or a computer science-based program if they are not already graduating from that at undergrad. So to be clear, in order to go to an engineering or computer science, you typically have to study that in undergrad. But if you've been in a science-based program, you can usually bridge that by taking additional courses. I know at Syracuse University they allow for that, where if you did not study computer science, then you can still be admitted, but you might have to attend for an extra semester in order to take those foundation courses to prepare. In an information school, you do not have to have a required undergraduate degree. We are interested in attracting students from all different disciplines. And anybody with a BS in applied statistics would be an excellent data scientist, because statistics is a very important skill set associated with that. What is the acceptance rate for PhD students at Syracuse University? It is fairly low, and that is because there is full funding for these students. So research-based universities, there's different classifications of universities in America. So the PhD universities are usually involved in heavy research, as is Syracuse. So it is very competitive. I know here we get anywhere from maybe 40 to 60 applications, but we are only typically take 4 to 5 students. And the key to being admitted to a doctoral program, and this is true everywhere, not just in our school, is one, you must be a very strong student with a very well-formed intention of what you want to study. So it can't just be that, I want to study information technology. You have to understand in much more detail what you want to study. So do some time, some exploration, even if it means taking a little time off and working and understanding what you'd like to do. The second and the very key thing, if you want to get admitted to a doctoral program, is to form a relationship with a faculty member. So if you are interested in a particular college or university, I encourage you to take the time to browse the faculty. Everyone has their resumes or their CVs online, and look at them and see who you'd want to study with, because the important thing for PhD admission is that you have a mentor. You have somebody that can help you reach your academic goals. And so much of that occurs outside of the classroom, and it occurs in your research, that mentor is critical to your success. So find a faculty member, find several faculty members that you think you might want to work with, and contact them individually. Do not mass email everybody, because it will not appear that you know exactly what you want to study. But find someone who is in an area that you want to enter. Contact them, ask them if they'd be interested in being your mentors, because you're interested in the research that they're doing, and that will help you immensely to get admitted to any doctoral program in the United States. I hope that helps. Good luck, Eugene. So more questions? I'm so glad that there's so many of you online. This is wonderful. Okay, if I don't see a question, I'll keep talking for a few minutes. So we talked a lot about the doctoral advice for application. So now I'd like to give the bachelor's and the master's students a good piece of advice for your application. Most people require either a statement of purpose, or a personal statement. And that is critical to your admission. It's not just critical to your admission, but it's also critical for scholarship review. So that is the piece in the application that tells us about you personally. So your transcripts, your letters of recommendation, your resume and your work experience, all of those things tell us about your aptitude, your ability to succeed in graduate school. And that's really important. But it doesn't tell us about what your driving forces are. What is driving you? What do you want to do? What are your goals? These are really critical for us to admit students, making sure that you're a good fit and making sure that you're going to complement and make our school a better place because you came here. So when you sit down to write your personal statement or your statement of purpose, please make it personal. Don't project about the field. Don't talk about where the information field is going. Talk about where you want to go and where your niche is, maybe in the information field. It's absolutely fine to talk about your past experiences, but talk about what you learned from them and how that influenced you. Don't just reiterate your resume because we already have that. We already have all that experience. But it's real. It can make, you can't imagine what a difference is. I read like about 1,200 to 1,500 of these a year. And there's some that just pop right out of the page. And I think to myself, I want this person at my school. This person has passion. This person is going to bring everything outside of the classroom. They're going to work in the community. They're going to really excite people about what's going on in the information school because they love what they're doing. That can jump right off of the page. So I really strongly encourage you to take that statement of purpose very seriously, or that personal statement. If anybody is advising you that there's a format to use, there's no format, okay? They're personal, they're individual, they're unique. Just make sure that at the end of it, that we know something personal about you. So I often give the advice of pick 2 characteristics about your personality and think of a story or think of an example of that characteristic. And that'll come through and help us to get to know you better as a person. Any other questions? I thought you'd like that, Natalia. So, okay. I mean, and it's absolutely fine to have someone proofread and edit, but it must be your ideas, okay? It must be coming from your heart. So I have a few more slides, which are pictures of Syracuse and the region that I can walk through, and then I can take some more questions. I love Syracuse, and I always like to take the opportunity to share my home with other people. So this is the original building of Syracuse University. Syracuse was founded in 1870. This is called the Hall of Languages. So it has both a lot of classrooms and auditoriums in it. And this is a picture of our campus. You can see that it's beautiful. One thing in the United States is the buildings of a campus usually reflect the age in which they're built. So because people want to see how universities develop over time. So there's some buildings that were built in the 1800s. There's others that were built, as little as 5 years ago. So you'll see a mix of both contemporary and old buildings around the campus. The big pillow in the sky that you see in the background is called the Carrier Dome. Athletics is really important to many American universities. It's definitely important to Syracuse. It's an element of our culture in which all of the alumni are bonded to Syracuse and come to games and share in the excitement that we have. There's another picture of the quad in our campus. That picture is actually being taken from the roof of the building of the computer science building. So if you were to look out, that's what you would see. Okay, and this is inside the Carrier Dome. So they often call us the Cuse. So that's why you see the flags there. And this is a basketball game. So basketball is probably the top sport at Syracuse. And you'll see for this particular game, we had record attendance. There were 33,000 people at that. And if you haven't guessed already, our college color is definitely orange. Okay, two other buildings, that's Hendricks Chapel, which is a non-denominational place of worship. So it has many different faiths are recognized there, whether it be Christianity, Judaism, Muslim, even some Hindu, everything. It has ceremonies there and has space there for students to be active in their faith. There's also other worship centers throughout the campus, but that is the primary one. And then the other picture is a building which houses the visual arts. So one of my favorite things to do, and I don't do it nearly enough, is just to go and sit inside that building, because we have incredible musicians on our campus, and you can sit there and just listen to them practice and get a free concert. Really quite beautiful. And it's a beautiful building with a beautiful auditorium with great acoustics in it. This is HINDS Hall, and this is where the information school is. Again, we're right on the quad. We're right to the right of the computer science school. Again, this is another picture of the Hall of Languages. It's kind of the most popular building, the most famous building at Syracuse University. And this is a football game inside the Carrier Dome. So we have both basketball, and then they changed the whole format up for football, and they also have soccer as well as lacrosse and some other field sports. And this is a picture of Syracuse, the city. So you can see the grassy area to the right, which is the quad, which we've been looking at pictures of on campus, and then of course the big dome is our sports facility. But if you look out where it gets a little hazy, that's because there's a lake there. And you can see there's no really tall buildings. We might have buildings with maybe 15 to 20 stories in Syracuse, but that's about it. It's a medium to small city. So there really aren't any traffic problems. It's a safe city. It's really a wonderful place to live. And of course we have snow. So anything in northern United States would have 4 seasons. So this is a winter shot of the quad. And this again is where the HINDS Hall, which is where the iSchool is housed. So that's my home that I wanted to share with you. It would be my huge pleasure to greet any of you on this campus and to welcome you to Syracuse. And again, I hope, I'm here to answer any more questions today. We still have, time to do that, or to connect with you again. I will go ahead and type my email address right here if anybody would like to contact me. It's right here. But again, does anybody have any additional questions? Is there anything that you'd like to add, or anything I can learn from you about what you're studying and how it might fit into the information field? No? Natalia, did you have any? Do you have any questions?
That was very nice. I think you covered it all very nicely. And just the last thing I wanted to mention, for those of you who are not familiar with Education USA, please check Education USA websites. I will type it in the chat box. See your advisors and your advising centers in your cities, wherever you are. Each country has an Education USA office. It's 171 countries so far. So Cuba was added to the list where Education USA works. So why I'm saying this is because those resources and that information that Sue was talking about, how to write your statement of purpose or your personal statement, is something that we try to teach our students, and we are trying to help students navigate through, because the application process to US colleges and universities is very different from the application process to your home country universities. So this is where Education USA comes into the game we are trying to promote higher education in the States and give you accurate and official information on higher education opportunities and the application process as well. So I'm going to type in the Education USA websites in Ukraine and the global one. And through the global Education USA site, you can find your advising centers in your city or in your country. But other than that, if you have some questions, we have about a minute or so to type in your questions.
Yeah. And I will tout Education USA as well. It's really the universities know that they can really rely on Education USA centers to reach the students of any country. I actually just returned from Thailand 2 days ago, and I was meeting with the Education USA people when I was in Thailand as well. So it's my way to get knowledge about our universities to citizens of countries throughout the world. So please use it. It's funded by the U.S. government. You can always trust them because there is no financial arrangements between universities and Education USA. They just are really there to serve you and make sure that you know what you need to know to have a good experience and to become a student in America.
True, yeah, thank you, Sue. So for us, the goal is to help a student. So
Right.
whatever your need is, we are there to try to assist you as much as we can. But all right, if there are no more questions, then you know how to find Sue or how to find Education USA. I will also send an email address for our Kyiv office here. But otherwise, thank you very much, Sue, for your time, for sharing about your home, sharing this important information for students. That was truly a pleasure. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.